Hello and welcome to Tracker Plus. I am Charles Semuzi. Thank you for joining us. On today's episode of the show, we look at the recent Freedom of Information ranking released by the PPDC and how it helps to promote transparency and accountability in the public sector. Then we go to some states to track some projects. Please stay with us. We had a chat with Mrs. Nembe Seember. She is the CEO of Public and Private Development Center, PPDC, a non-governmental organization actively involved in procurement monitoring for public and private enterprises. For an insight into the activities of the PPDC, please watch this short video.
It's like a coven. In fact, they don't have a facility there.
We lost my grandmother here in Brutu in the hospital.
They suffer me well for the clinic. They call expose the keep on for bed. Breeze currently the begins and keep on die.
I blame the federal government.
So I want the government to help this place.
The government has never for once brought any drugs here.
There is no qualified doctor, two nurses are managing it, yet they are community effort.
It's only this road lead to the hospital and to the town. This is 2014 when this project has started.
It's uncompleted building. There is nothing there.
We can't ask the contractor anything. We will tell you, say, no, we are doing that, I can go and do it in another place. That is the way they brag before us.
The work was almost half done.
Let them send a letter to that community.
Because of the uncompleted fence of the school.
I'm even afraid some gangs might perform so many dirty acts like raping and...
The federal government had tried their best to lay the schools for the community.
The government publishes and says, oh, such and such a project has been done.
Our Procurement Act also empowers citizens to ask questions.
It's not just the government instruments. Citizens are able to monitor projects from their point of view.
Civil society organizations are also monitoring projects. Your organization, PPDC, is doing a fantastic work in this regard.
The PPDC has released an FOI ranking for the year 2017. This report shows the level of compliance of public sector organizations with the Freedom of Information Act. We had a chat with her to discuss this ranking, how it affects constituency projects and many more. Listen to this.
We started in 2013 with 15 institutions, and in 2014 with 67, 2015 with 116, last year with 131, and this year with 166. And this year, what we've seen, if we look at the trend, is that it looks like there's a few more organizations that are complying or are trying to comply, but there's still several organizations that are not. So this year, just like last year, the Bureau of Public Service Reforms came first place. That means that they have full proactive disclosure of the information we were requesting for on their website. So that also meant for us that we didn't need to ask them for the information because they already had it available, proactively available. So that was good, and it's the second time in the row that they're coming first, which is great. It just shows that there's some level of consistency, and that was key for us. And so we had a few more organizations trying to proactively disclose, but not fully disclosing. So for some, you would see their procurement plan, you would see their annual reports up, and some of the annual reports have things like capital expenditure, which is one of the things that we ask for. So that would give them partial disclosure for that. But there were several institutions, there were at least I would say 92 institutions that did not even provide any information at all. So we didn't get the information we wanted. And what the information we want is procurement records. We didn't get them online, and when we made a request, we had no response. So those were some of our findings. We also found that that there were some institutions that we expected that would do better than they did, in the rankings, and that's a bit discouraging, particularly, if you're an enforcement agency or a regulator, it's always good to lead by example pretty much, and so those are some of the things that we're expecting from some of the institutions. But we had people try to also explain some of the things that they thought was the reason why they were not disclosing, and it had to do with some of the things with, I think, the kind of, they said things around capacity building, the fact that maybe, the people were not aware of the law, or the letters, got lost in transit, those kinds of things. And it's good to know these things so that the public service takes steps to addressing it, so that it's good to collect these findings, so that it takes steps to making sure people can actually access information as the law requires them to. We don't do it as a standalone thing. It's only, as I said, it's an intermediary output. It's something that it's on our way to making sure we can actually track the performance of projects, that we use, that we now, because we have to ask for information anyway. And so what we do is that we make FOI requests by law, because first of all, we check on the websites. If we see the information on the websites, then we don't need to make a request. And then, where if we don't see it, then we make a request. And sometimes we have to make several requests. We make 1, 2, 3, 4 requests sometimes, but we do it statutorily. So we don't go and say, we're going to conduct a ranking, and so because we're conducting a ranking, we want your information. What we do is that we make a request. We say, by virtue of the Freedom of Information Act, we kindly request that you provide us with details of this, and then we list the things we want. Capital projects for 2016, procurement plans for 2016 or 2017, details of this, including the contract name, contract amount, contract person, to the contractor to whom it was awarded, milestones, the status of the project. We break it down in that way. And so we never say, we don't announce that we're doing this. It's not like, hey, we're going to do a ranking on the 28th of September, so provide us with this information. Why we started doing the rankings is because it was difficult for us to get access to this information. That meant it was difficult for us to follow up on public projects, public contracts, several of which are constituency projects. And so what we've been able to do with the rankings is that we've been able to take them and link the various stages in the procurement process together. So we've linked the budget estimates to contract amounts, because budget estimates and contract amounts actually differ. We use that to go and check and say, okay, this primary healthcare center, who has it been awarded to and for how much and to what end, what is it supposed to provide? And then we go to see whether those things actually, are on ground. And so that's really the end goal of all of this. So we put all the information we get based on these FOI requests that we make on a platform called Budeshi. Budeshi is open it in Hausa, and what actually brought about this is because we were trying to advocate to the government, and that was successful because they needed to start linking expenditure-related information together, linking budget and procurement data together, so that people can follow the process from conception up until the end.